Can you hear me fine?
Yeah. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Banda Kashevit International. Today we have Igor joining us. Hi, Igor.
Hey, Rocco, how you doing? Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's our pleasure, Igor. Today, lots of topics to actually cover, guys. It has been a pretty intense week for AC Milan supporters. We lived all the emotions. We were playing against Cremonese. We were hoping we would do a good result. That didn't happen. Napoli won the Scudetto. So we have a lot to cover today. And I think the first starting point is actually being what happened with Cremonese, because let's be realistic, AC Milan actually dominated the game. Filippo Galli, one of our guests and a god for AC Milan, actually made an interview today with Gazzetta dello Sport in Italy, where he actually stated AC Milan controlled the game. We just had difficulties kind of scoring in that game, right? And if we look at the game and the average positions of the players, something that strikes the attention is that we rarely had players in the penalty box of Cremonese, which is kind of alarming, right? So I think, Igor, I would like your comment on the current situation of Cremonese.
I lost you. Can you hear me? So, okay, guys. So, we're waiting for Rocco to figure out his audio situation. And guess you're stuck with me now.
Can you hear me now, Igor?
Yes, I can.
For some reason, I think my USB plug where I connect my microphone stopped working all of a sudden, of course.
Right. I mean, here's the thing. I think what happened is we were going to talk about the Cremonese game, and the computers just decided to,
Do
like,
not work.
we we're not going to do well. That Cremonese game, it's a tale of two halves, really. And to me, I liked what Pioli did in the first half. I might be in the minority, but I thought that it was something different. And I'm never against trying new things if the old things are not working. And Milan has not had any success, any sustained success against bottom half teams this year. Even though we haven't lost, I think we've dropped somewhere around 20 to 21 points against like bottom half teams, and that's just not acceptable. And what he tried to do, everybody thought that Origi was going to play the 9 position, but what he ended up playing mostly on the left wing. I mean, when you see especially the heat maps and everything, he played mostly on the left side. And uh, to my surprise, for me, the worst player yesterday in the first half was Brahim Diaz. I mean, he was just bad, like legitimately bad. CDK was kind of okay, but it's kind of what we're doing with him is we're moving the bar. We're constantly moving the bar with CDK to where mediocre is okay.
Yeah. Uh,
So we're making mental acrobatics to justify his poor performance. And he should have done more with the chance he created. He created. His instincts are not betraying him. The problem is when the instincts go away, when he had the ball and then he had to think, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? It's like his PlayStation controller went dead and he just kept running in the same direction. He did nothing.
that
So right, what my thing is that I mean, the kid has instincts. He saw it. He read the moment. Just follow your gut. Follow your instincts. Don't try to do anything fancy. And he didn't even like try to create contact. He didn't protect the ball. He did nothing. So that to me tells me that he has a very significant problem with confidence and mental issues that we're not going to say it's all on Pioli, but it's mostly on Pioli.
Yeah, like I feel that the biggest challenge in the game is that we do not have a style of play that can counterattack defensive teams. We have seen this issue against Cremonese, Roma, Salernitana. Literally, with every player, we have seen that issue over and over again. And all in all, what I think is going to be important for AC Milan is to find next season a way to counterattack that problem. With that said, though, against Cremonese, the things that also I think needs to be stressed here is also the element of luck. What do I mean with the element of luck? If you look at the game of Inter against Verona, Inter was having difficulties unlocking that match. Then there was a non goal, a very spectacular goal. There is a little bit of noise, I think, from the microphone touching your face. There you go, now it's better. But then the second goal, great goal by Chalanoglu. Third goal, literally a Verona player lost the ball right in the middle of the field, leaving a 3 against 1. So Inter was able to unlock that match. We unlocked that match in minute 15 with Salamakers, and it was cancelled. And we had a few chances. We didn't take advantage of them. So here is what I have a problem with, which is it is true. Pioli this year made many mistakes. But is Pioli to be blamed for Brahim Diaz missing a goal? Is Pioli to be blamed for Brahim Diaz not passing the ball to Salamaker, right? Is Pioli to be blamed for CDK missing the goal? Technically, that game, if we had Ibrahimovic or if we had a good middle fielder, it would have finished 4-0 because those were humongous chances for the team. Don't you think that yes, Pioli made mistakes over the year, but against Cremonese, what we really failed at was scoring very easy chances.
Absolutely. And that's why I said that I liked what he did early on. The only mistake I think Pioli had two mistakes on the game, in my opinion, which was I don't understand the Benacer swap at halftime unless it's something physical.
There is some issue with the microphone because try now. Now you're muted. Now I cannot hear you now. No, your audio is completely gone now. No, nothing. Sorry, guys, some minor technical issues.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Okay, so let's do that old school, no headphones. Yeah. What I was saying is I like Pioli's initial approach because definitely we didn't have a number 9 to facilitate the central defenders' work, and but we didn't have a presence. So to me, the only mistake Pioli made was the Benacer change. I hated that change because Krunic he's been fine, he's been good for us, but Krunic's labor has been more defensive, and I hate oversimplifying, but honestly, I didn't understand it at the time. And the second mistake he made was when he had the final change. I don't know why he left Brahim Diaz on and took CDK out, especially since the plan from then on was going to be basically just crosses to the box. So you want to keep the guy that's 6'4" or the guy that's 5'8". Like
Yeah, I agree. Like, I mean, again, uh, overall, the changes were also conditioned by the fact that, he probably he thought Brahim Diaz could have given him the spark that we needed, but of course Brahim Diaz made quite bad mistakes when it comes to those goals. Like, we would have literally could should have scored twice. But all in all, there is one thing that is positive from the game, right? The one thing that is positive is that we were always first on the second balls, which is very important for our play style. And that overall, it seems that from a physical standpoint, we are there. Like, we are not on a down when it comes to the physical standpoint. Which kind of brings me to one last topic against Cremonese, right? Which is CDK. CDK again missed a very easy goal. No matter what you say, yeah, Karnaseki was very good there, but he could have tried to get a penalty. He was very weak in that attempt, CDK. So here we actually had a little poll made on our Twitter where we asked people what they thought about CDK. Specifically, I'm going to share my screen. Give me 1 second to open it up. There you go. As you can see here, we were asking people one thing, which was the Catalar is the most discussed player here on Milan Twitter. Keeping him, selling him, or loaning him are all options that are on the table, and there are arguments to justify them all. What would you do? Out of 74 votes, 78.4% want to keep him for one more season. 17.6% want to sell him while we can, and 4.1% want to loan him out. It's an interesting result from this poll, right? Because you would think that people might want to, sell him or get upset, but actually, most of the supporters seem to support CDK. Where do you stand about that in that regard, Igor?
I think it's an interesting question. I would never loan him out. Uh, there's no reason for me to loan him out. I didn't spend 40 million on a player just to loan him out the second year. It's to me, loaning him out is not an option. So do you sell him? I mean, I would sell him if the right offer came. But since the right offer is not going to come, I think the only option you have is to keep him. But we need to establish what it is that we want to do as a team. First of all, we don't know what competition we're going to be playing next year. So if we're playing the Europa League, it's like, yeah, that's fine, keep them. And because we've seen with Pioli, he has no problem using his second unit in the Europa League, and he could get a lot more minutes next year. But in any case, I think CDK has shown us, especially in the first few games, when he wasn't still doing adding on muscle and he was kind of fresh off the boat, so to speak. Those were his best games, in my opinion. And yesterday, even the Cremonese game was, I think you can make an argument that it's one of his better games, which is kind of sad about.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would keep him because unless we get like an amazing offer, like somebody, some English team wants to give us $50 million for the guy. I mean, listen, stranger things have happened. I would mostly keep him. Yeah, I agree with the poll, 100%.
Yeah, I would keep him, but I would also make sure to have a plan B for next season, right? Because we cannot keep him and then have another season like this where you expect him to bring that extra set of goals, assists, and then none of that happens. Because unfortunately, this year we have been living with people we bought that didn't contribute, right? The only one that contributed was Chow, and that's kind of scary thoughts. But against Lazio, Pioli is starting with the official 11 of AC Milan. Calabria, I believe, one within Chow and Kier, Tomori, Hernandez, Benacer, Krunic, Tonali, Salamakers, Diaz or Messias, Leao, and Giroud. So the team that we want to see on the pitch. However, there is one thing that I think is pretty interesting for us. On one hand, AC Milan always underperforms before a Champions League game. This year, we literally didn't play a good match before a Champions League game. But it is also true that this team somehow, when everybody thinks we are done for, pulls out some tricks from the hat and surprises us. Well, against Lazio is literally a final for us. We lose this game, we are most likely not gonna make the top four because let's be honest, we have 5 games left. This means like 15 points are available until the end of the season. We cannot lose three. On the other hand side, the game against Inter is coming. So against Lazio, what do you expect to see realistically? Like, what kind of game do you expect?
Well, we have 5 games left. We have the two, so we have 7 finals left, hoping to catch an eighth final. We
Yeah,
can't really lose any more points. I think we could realistically make Champions League with 4 wins and a draw, but the combination of but we would need that ruling taking Juventus out of the equation. As it pertains to Lazio, it's really hard because that first game, I don't think you can take it into consideration because we were in such a different time in the stage in the season. It was we were playing a 3-5-2. We didn't have Magnan. It was our worst moment. So you can't take anything from that game, not really. But you get what I can do is, like you said, Milan physically looks fine, and that's you know that's that's not concerning. That's uplifting, so to speak. But I've seen Lazio's last 3 games, and they've looked anything but solid. They lost at home against Torino 1-0. I don't know if you saw that game,
yeah,
but they look very nervous. They look. It seems that they're letting outside noise get to them, and to some extent, Lazio threw the Conference League away just to reach top four, and I think they're feeling the pressure. And their squad is very short, and I think they beat Sassuolo last time
yeah,
around
yeah,
1-0, and Sassuolo is basically on vacation.
yeah,
And I think Lazio is ripe for the picking right now. As it comes again, as it pertains to tactically, yeah, we're gonna play with our 4-3-3. That's wonderful. That's fine. And part of our poor results before Champions League game is that we've been using that second unit usually right before the Champions League games, and it hasn't been working out for us. So I think we're gonna. I think we're. I'm cautiously optimistic that we're gonna beat Lazio.
yeah. And
And
something that is interesting here, and I wanted to show you is that this is how Lazio played. These are the average positions of the players of Lazio's players against Milan when we lost 4-0. As you can see, Lazio in the before the subs changed it a little bit. It played very heavily in their middle field, right? So that alone is probably gonna be a bit of a concern for AC Milan because they push forward, but they keep a lot of players in their own half. If you look at Milan during that game, AC Milan first started like with a formation that pushed a lot of a few players on the back and 4 players like up top. With the subs, we tried to push even further, but it really didn't work out. And if we look at something that is kind of interesting, let's look at Lazio against Inter, and that's probably where Lazio lost that game. So if you look at Lazio against Inter, until Lazio was winning the game, it's gonna take a second for me to load it up here. There you go. So if you look at Lazio's average position against Inter, it's
it was
very
much
interesting.
higher.
It's very interesting how this is the first half. As you can see, a lot of players in their own half. Then they made the subs, and as you can see, for whatever reason, it's one of the first time in the season, Lazio left 3 men on the back, and all of those guys up top. And we look against Sassuolo, we go back to what Lazio has used us to, which is basically a pretty heavy concentration of players, as you can see, in their own half, also after the substitution. So I
Right.
think, Go ahead,
Hey,
Igor.
can we look at what they did against Torino?
Against Torino, same exact thing pretty much. Only against Inter they changed it for. Sorry, this is still Sassuolo. If you look at Lazio Torino, as you can see, Lazio first half had a lot more players up top for,
Yeah,
and then after the substitutions, look how
yeah.
many more they took, because they were losing, right? But
Right. But this is what I kind of wanted to circle back to. I think that after they lose these two games against Torino and Inter, I think at some point Sarri makes the adjustments and says, "Hey guys, we need to go back to what's working for us, which is basically a low block."
yeah,
And if they keep that discipline, it's gonna create problems for us, no question. And I think Sarri is such a good coach too.
yeah.
And
I think the biggest challenge is gonna come from the fact that Lazio doesn't have to win this game. They're
yeah,
fine tying it up. So I think it's gonna be a complicated game once more for us, because clearly against Inter, I don't understand why they did what they did, to be honest, because they started with a very defensive block there and then they switched it up. But there is a clear connection between Lazio pushing player up forward and Lazio losing a game. So with us, for sure, they're gonna play defensively now because they've learned their lesson. So it's gonna be up to us to actually, for once, making sure that we can unlock that game. Now, with that said, like, do you think we are gonna have a game where we're gonna do a lot of long throws again, or
La
are you expecting
Catapulta,
something else?
the catapult.
That's pretty much right, which is
Yeah,
what's popular right now.
that's right. Right. I mean, again, if Lazio, if La, that seems to be the formula to beat Milan, to just wait us out. And I keep asking myself when I watch these games, why doesn't Pioli, Mourinho used to do, especially when he was at Madrid, he used to allow other teams to attack him. Like
Yeah,
you give the ball to the other team, and if you can't find space, you have to artificially manufacture it. And to some degree, you have to allow. Like if you give Cremonese the ball, they're not gonna do anything with it. I think Lazio, you can bait them into kind of attacking you with a bit more of success than you could with Cremonese and Salernitana, whatever. Like those teams, they're just gonna wait you out, and then at the 80th minute, they're just gonna say, "Hey, let's just go for it," because that's what happens. Like that's what always happens. So I think with Lazio, if you give them the ball, they're gonna try and push forward a little bit more, and I think that's what we kind of need to do and kind of accept the risk that comes with that. But you don't want to recreate another 60 minutes of snooze fest with nothing happening and just lateral and backward passes. But I
basically are saying that you would use this a similar strategy to what we did with Naples, waiting for them and then countering.
it's yeah, and it's different because Napoli, well, quite frankly, Napoli are a way better team than Lazio.
Here we have a Pioli fan.
Feel free to speak your mind. um, yeah, no, listen. The one thing I'll say about Pioli is that I'm not a big fan of his, but I don't think you can justify his removal just yet.
Yeah,
And there's a lot more, and a lot that goes into getting another coach. So we might be a little hot on game day, but after that, guys, this is our coach for the foreseeable future. And
in his defense, though, Igor, right? We all know he made mistakes, right? There is no negating that. Like, it's obvious that something wrong he did this year, because it's evident. Like, putting Brahim Diaz as a trequartista or a center advanced midfielder is an aberration when you have Meite that is three times his size, right? You shouldn't have played there against Cremonese. You should have probably left, like you said, put CDK. But there is also one thing, like, they bought in players such as CDK, Origi, They left Rebic, Messias, Salamankers. So effectively, you gave a coach an attack that, unless Leao was scored 12 goals and Giroud was scored 8 goals, everybody else doesn't even shoot, let alone score it. They don't shoot. And that's a problem, right? Because uh, against, like, usually, like when I used to play soccer when I was young, uh, the coaches used to talk about having options up there to try different things. Well, what things do we try? Salamakers is improving a lot, but is not somebody that in matches like with Cremonese can shoot from far. Benacer is a middle fielder. He's doing a great job, but is not a Milinkovic Savic that can do both parts of the game, like a box to box player. He's adapted there. Pobega, with some characteristic, was injured. Rebic this year doesn't want to play. Origi is not playing. The Kettler is not producing, and he had the chance, he just missed it. So at that point, yes, you made mistakes, but what can you do with the players you got?
No, I
And
don't. Sorry. I thought you were.
now it's like, what can you do, right? Like, you pass the ball to Liao and hope it does something. That's what we are at right now, right?
Right. I'm a big fan of air disaster documentaries, and it's never one thing. So this season, you cannot put it on Pioli. Like, I wanted to look at his record. I went ahead and looked at his record against bottom half teams, the past 5 years with
Yeah,
Milan, with Inter. This year is an outlier. Like,
interesting.
I wanted to see what his record was, and I went ahead and did it. And with Lazio, it was 11 wins, 5 draws, and 2 losses. This is the work that I did no, nobody told me. With Inter, it was 4 wins, 2 draws, 1 loss. With Milan, I started the first year, and I after 5 wins and 1 draw, I said, "Listen, I've seen enough.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a bad year, and with everything that has gone on, is it Maldini's fault? A little bit. Is it Pioli's fault? A little bit. Is it Jerry Cardinale and the front office fault? A little bit. And is it the players' fault? A little bit. And we have to be okay with that.
That's
And
actually a very interesting statistics you made there, right? Because that kind of confirms A bad year, and B, he probably doesn't have the right interpreters.
right, and this is not only Milan. This is Inter. This is Lazio. I want to go back to Fiorentina, but again, it would just be confirmation bias. But these are his numbers against bottom half teams,
Yeah.
at bottom five teams. That's what I did. So to me, I'm not a big fire Pioli guy, unless we could get the right manager. But who is,
Yeah, I think
So
the only thing that, to me, the only thing that I kind of quote unquote blaming is that it has been obvious start from the beginning of the season that playing with a center attacking midfielder that was CDK or Brahim Diaz would not work. You just could see we lost many balls. We were getting like 3 goals a game from like low teams. So to me, the only thing that we can blame him is the reaction time that he had to make those adjustments, because he put Benacer and the problem immediately disappeared because we are not getting as many goals now. We're just not scoring, but we are not getting them. And the other thing is like, and we will never have an answer to that because we don't have the tools. As was there the opportunity to take better advantage of the new signings, right? Like Ranks, Adli, to kind of try different solutions. But probably it wouldn't have changed much because we tied matches against small teams also with the starting 11. So probably, like, your analysis makes sense, which brings me to the last topic of today episode, which is Inter Milan and the derby, right? So we're gonna have a very important match coming up. We do know one thing: these guys, when there is pressure, they perform well. Inter, on the other hand side, is a team that historically this year and last year we had a hard time playing. This formation has a hard time with 3-5-2 formations. However, when people say, yeah, you guys lost 3-0, 1-0, you won, you got lucky. Well, first of all, in January this year, AC Milan didn't play. Magnan wasn't there. We didn't have a center defensive midfield as a center attacking midfielder. But more importantly, uh, I still believe that whoever says AC Milan is doomed, they're kind of wrong because guys, we literally defeated Naples. We won with merit. No matter what De Laurentiis says, we were the one that didn't get the penalties. So AC Milan showed that the best team in the league this year, a team that literally destroyed everybody, we got the result 3 times in a row. So I think AC Milan has a chance if we prepare the game well. But what are your feelings about the game? Right, it's a pretty big game for us, and it will. I think that it can. AC Milan might surprise us once more.
I agree. I think that even though I don't, sometimes we tend to oversimplify our reasoning, and we say, well, we shouldn't just let the league. We should focus on the league and on the Champions League, guys. These are young players. So what ends up happening is that with young players, I don't know if you saw the documentary with the old Milan players with Gattuso and
Yeah.
Rossini, the Stavamo bene insieme. I don't know if you remember a quote from Gattuso when he said, "When you're playing on Wednesday in Old Trafford, and then you have to go to Reggio Calabria on a train, like no disrespect to Reggio Calabria, of course, lovely region, but it's not the same. It cannot be the same." So I think that the players, especially a few players in particular that I've watched, I think they're saving themselves because not only this is Champions League, not only is this a derby, but I think that these two teams genuinely do not like each other. Like they have like a real. This is not one of those rivalries when they go out for dinner and whatever. I think Theo hates Chalanoglu. Chalanoglu hates Theo. There's enough friction where I think the Milan are only thinking. I think I'm getting feedback from your computer,
Can you
but
hear me now? Is it good now?
yeah, the Milan players are only thinking about that derby. And yes, we've had problems against Inter tactically, especially even last year and the year before, because the 3-5-2 is kryptonite when it comes to the 4-3-3. But if you take out Brahim or any attacking midfielder, this is not an attack on Brahim. If you take out CDK or whoever and you add some muscle, namely Kessie's not here anymore, but let's call it Krunic, Benacer, and Tonali, I think we're gonna win more second balls, like you said, against Cremonese, because physically we are there. I think we're gonna be. I think we're gonna have a better chance at beating Inter. And listen, Giroud is gonna have to be clinical for us. Leao's gonna have to be. They're gonna have to take their chances, and I think it will come down to that, to them taking their chances, because it's gonna be really. I think it's gonna be a really close semifinal.
It is going to be a close semifinals. I agree, but I also look at one other aspect, right? I like to look at games and motivations, right? Against Napoli, we can for sure say, and I'm sure you agree, Kvaratskhelia, Osimhen, they had motivations, right? And this year, Kvaratskhelia and Osimhen have done 10 times better than Dzeko, Lautaro, and Lukaku. Now, I have a feeling that Inter is not a team that focuses a lot on dribbling. They don't like take a numeric advantage by dribbling another player. They don't have the characteristics, which is what Napoli, with Politano, Kvaratskhelia, they do. So on one end, I think that AC Milan, if they play fully focused on the game, they can help. They can hold up Inter very well. Now it is gonna be fundamental having the three midfielder. That's why I mentioned it's important to play with three central defensive midfielder, because what we suffer with Inter, what Inter is very good at, Inter passes the ball very fast, very good. They're incredibly good at those quick passes to free up a shooter. However, we never played Inter with one more man there, because when AC Milan defends, and I'm gonna see if I can find a graph of that, having one more player, it literally makes the difference for us. With that said, and I'm gonna try to share this photo. Okay, let me see if I can quickly share it. So if you look at this photo right here, when AC Milan plays with Krunic as a center or Benacer, as you can see here, when the other teams attack, there is, in this case, it was Messias because he was closer, but all of the sudden we defend with seven players. We have two center attacking midfielder and striker Liao on the left up top. Now, if we do well these movements, and when we attack, we switch to a three defense, one center defending midfielder, three center attacking midfielders, two strikers, and Liao, now we can be dangerous. With that said, the difference is that if we do that defensive part well, Inter is not scaring defense because, guys, they play with D'Ambrosio, Acerbi, Bastoni, Damian, and Di Marco. They are not Kim, Mario Rui, and whoever Di Lorenzo. Like, obviously, they are not as Napoli won the league, and this is a much better defense, right? So I think that's gonna be the key of the game, in my opinion. The key of the game is gonna be that center attacking midfielder doing a very good job at stopping those passes to try to free up the shooter, because Inter is a very good shooter from out of the box, and the defense not making mistakes when crosses are gonna come in. But I think if I look at it objectively, not as a supporters, we have more chances with Inter than with Naples. Objectively, because Naples, literally, we had to play a masterpiece to win both games. So I think that's what's gonna be the key there. And of course, Liao, well, I think Acerbi and Di Marco and D'Ambrosio are gonna have a tough times if they give space to Liao. Because when we look at the match, we always analyze the match as if the other team is gonna attack the whole time. But hey, we have strikers too, right? So if you attack, you're gonna free up our strikers. Do you think like this, the way I'm reading the game makes sense? Do you think that's gonna be like the decisive factor?
No, 100%, 100%. And I think you hit the nail on the head when you say that Inter, in weak spot is the defense, because it looks a lot. And to their credit, I mean, it looks a lot different with Skriniar in there, but he's not there anymore. And they wanted Bremer, they couldn't get him, and now they have to, they have to make do with what they have. Like we have to make do with what we have up top when it comes to the center for. I mean, I love Giroud, but he's not, like a world class guy that would be starting anywhere. That's not who he is. He's good, but he is what he is.
But he knows how to play those games, and
You
that
know,
makes the whole
he's
difference.
yeah. And you know who else knows how to play those games? Brahim
Origi,
Diaz.
Origi too.
Origi, Brahim Diaz. They always find a way to show up, and I'm really. I think that we, following up on what you said a little bit, we have a better chance at beating Inter than Lazio, because of what we've talked about tactically. Uh, Inter will have Inter will have possession, I think, because they're gonna, if they can create supremacy in numbers in the midfield, which is I think what they're gonna try and do, and with their quick passing, and I mean with Barella, if Barella's on, and even Chalanoglu, I mean, Chalanoglu is going to be on that game. He wants that. He has this whole thing in his head where
Yeah,
he has created, and it's all him, by the way. Well, not all him, but you know what I mean. He started it, and it's all created by him. And it's going to be an amazing couple of games. I think they're going to be boring games for the neutral fans. I think
Unless something happens. That's awesome. I think it's gonna be like you said, but there is one case in which the game is gonna be very exciting, which is if by any chance AC Milan scores in the first 45 minutes. If that happens, you are gonna see a spectacular game because Inter is gonna attack like crazy. But when people do that, we have a devil on the left
right,
that is that's
right.
gonna be interesting, to see how that develops. Because I always say after I watch Manchester United against Sevilla, I say anything can happen because guys, Sevilla was losing to zero, and their best striker Maguire did his best to the two own goals, pretty much. Like,
Amazing.
look at that, right? Like a
Yeah.
change for two own goals. You never know what can happen in a game.
Right. Right. But
And
but,
that is
but
a
in any case,
question,
I think
Igor, you have seen more than I did in terms of Champions League games. How do you answer that question?
what do you mean? Is the white on my beard? Well, I mean, if you have been listening, Animaniac, and thank you for your question. I love questions. It makes the show go so much faster and more fun. Um, I do think we have a legitimate chance against Real and City, and here's why. We've been saying it all our the 41 minutes that we've been talking, except for the audio problems on both parts. We've been saying it that our problem is going to be against low block teams. The City is not going to play a low block against us. No chance. Okay, so we're going to have some space. Real, I don't know. I mean, Ancelotti is the goat, so he knows some things we do not know. But as it comes to our chance, 100%, we do have a chance. I think I would say 60-40 against City. Of course, the City with the 60. And against Real, I would make it more of a long shot just because Real is Real. Real is the only team that I look at and I say, okay, you guys are bigger than us, no question. And they win. They win every time. And but I think if anyone is going to take them down a peg, it's going to be us. So if we beat Inter, when we beat Inter, yes, we're going to have a chance. It's going to be a one match. It's going to be crazy. It's going to be insane. And I'm saying it right now, Rocco. If we should watch that game together, we live close enough.
Yeah, no, if we get there, man, to the final, that's absolutely a must. I found there are two guys that live close by. We just need to cross fingers.
Nice.
Igor, do you remember the coach Vujadin Boskov by any chance?
Yes, I do.
So Vujadin
Bulgarian.
Boskov, Animaniac, in case you don't know him, he coached Real Madrid, Roma, and Sampdoria. And one time they asked him if his team, Sampdoria, had a chance. I don't remember with what team, but it was in the 90s. I was a child when that happened. And his answer was, in soccer, you never know because inside the ball there is a rabbit, and that rabbit can decide to go anywhere, right? When you play a one-shot game, you cannot foresee what happens. Look at Milan Liverpool. We lost after we were at 3-0, right? But at the same time, look at Manchester United Sevilla, right? Like anything can happen. So it can be that the player is a good day, a player is a bad day. It can be that Haaland that day finds in Krunic is at nemesis and he cannot play against. You never know what happens in those games. So I feel that a final is different than a semi-final because it's instead of two games, it's one game. Probably against Real Madrid and Manchester City on a two games, AC Milan has no chances because on two games they're gonna kill you, they're gonna disintegrate you, right? So first, let's think about beating Inter, which is going to be a very tough thing. And Andrea surfaces from the ashes with a comment. Hi, Andrea. He was bringing his son to play soccer today. He said 50% of football matches is random. Absolutely true.
Yeah.
But there are three things in soccer to keep football to keep in mind. Number one, a league is completely different for a cup. A league, you need to play constantly at a similar level for 38 matches. Champions League is even different than the league because there are 6 games. You can prepare for those 6 games, and then you go to a 2 games kind of context, so to say, right? In those 2 games, you can see you win the first, and then you prepare for the second. There is strategy involved. So, for example, by absurd, playing against Tottenham, Napoli, and Inter is much different than playing against Real Madrid because Ancelotti on 2 games, he will make sure you lose that game if you're not good enough. Final is a one-shot game. Anything can happen. So let's hope we get there. And once we get there, we are gonna prepare a bucket for our tears, a big one, and a small one for our tears of happiness, because of course we would be on the very unlikely chance to win, but the chance is
Right.
there. And the 50% randomness that Andrea talks about does exist.
And to be honest, if we do make the final, I think we would be playing with house money. I think it's way above our expectations. And if we do lose against either a City or a Real Madrid, I don't think you can feel disappointed in any way. And I think this Milan team is built for Champions League because, like you said, when league play, especially in Italy, it warrants physical players.
Yeah.
You can get away with a bad game, but there's a reason why we lost 3-1 to Udinese. They bullied us physically.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's what when we lost Kessie, um, we didn't replace him physically, and that
We didn't replace him, period.
right. Well, I mean, we brought a person, but we didn't replace Kessie. So that's the thing. But in Champions League, when it's one match or two matches, like you said, I agree 100%. I don't think we could beat Madrid or we can beat City on a two-leg elimination. I don't think we could because it's a different animal. So I think that again we are getting ahead of ourselves. But to answer the question, lastly, yeah, we have a serious chance against either of those teams.
Yeah, I think like by there is something that made me think about what Pioli said during the drawings for the finals. I would rather play with a team that doesn't know us because Pioli is aware. Remember, he said I would prefer Bayern Munich, Real Madrid because they don't know us, and it kind of tells us a lot, right? Tells us, oh, by the way, the reason why our style of play doesn't work in Italy anymore is because they know it, and we are not gonna be able to figure that out as fast as possible. However, at the same time, it's like if a team doesn't know us, yeah, they can watch recordings, they can watch games, but it's not like playing against us. So by absurd, if we are to beat Inter, we might be surprised by the level of performance in a potential final, right? Because of that aspect. It's like you do not know what to expect.
Right.
One thing is to see Leao, one thing is to play against Leao, one thing is to see Brahim Diaz, one thing is to play against Brahim Diaz. It's a completely different ballpark, I feel.
100%. 100%. 1,000%.
And
It's
in addition to that, uh, something else that I think is important to keep in mind here is that right now our focus is Lazio. We need to make the 3 points against Lazio. Let's look. Hopefully, the team is laser focused, and we will see what happens. But with that said, Igor, I think we are toward the end of our time. Just so you know, there is something you need to know that we do in Italy and in the American version. If by any chance AC Milan beats Lazio and Inter, I don't care if you have to take a business trip, a cruise, if you need to do go anything, you got to be here next Friday because there is lucky charm and we are superstitious. We cannot break the superstition. If we lose, you might never be here again. No, just joking. But if you win, you got to be here on Friday because You need to keep everything balanced. But do you have any last words you would like to share prior to this double header we are getting ourselves into?
Well, I mean, if we win both games, I'd be back. I'd be happy to come back, as so not to break habit, or I'm a very superstitious kind of guy, so I'd
Perfect.
love to. So, last words. Thank you for having me. I enjoy doing this early in the morning. It's wonderful for me. I'm a little. It helped me. It's very therapeutic. I'm a little sad about that Cremonese game. We have to, you know, just keep our heads in the next game. I don't know if we're gonna be able to do that against Lazio. Let's hope. And but guys, it's sports are the toy department of life. Let's try to handle better. And I'm talking to myself a little bit. Let's try to handle it better, and especially on social media. There's still 5 games left. We know what we did last year with those last 5 games. The job is not finished, but we are still AC Milan. Congratulations to Napoli for winning the Scudetto, but we are still the best team in Italy. And enjoy. Have a great weekend. Let's hope. Let's beat Lazio. Let's hope we can get a favor from other teams around the league. And sempre, 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 Forza Milan.
Those are nice words, Igor. And I will invite you once I close the live to stay on board so I can greet you. But I would like to remind everybody to follow us on YouTube, on Twitter, follow Igor as well. We want to make sure that you guys can know when we do more content so you can follow us and actually join the conversation. Thank you so much again. And Forza Milan.
Forza Milan.